Welcome back. So now we are going to learn about the topic biotechnology patents. So biotechnology, let's see what actually is biotechnology. It is a broad discipline in the field of biology involving the use of living systems, organisms to develop products by exploiting biological processes for industrial and other purposes. Biotechnology is a research intensive field. It is massively dependent on IPR patent rights in particular. So, this is a very new and innovative field of discipline which is in its infant stage but it's still developing at such a high rate. So, obviously, all the inventions and all the developments that is happening in that particular field requires some kind of statutory protection, and the best one is patent protection itself. Scientific fields including molecular biology, biotechnology, embryology, genetics, and bioinformatics. So, these are the major areas where patent protection is required. So, this is what you can see the molecular biology, embryology, genetics, bioinformatics, etc. So, these are the major areas which require patent protection. Now let's move on to actually what do you mean by biotechnology. Now biotechnology includes a wide variety of new technological developments in the sense that any technological application that uses biological systems, living organisms, or derivatives thereof to make or modify products or processes for specific use. This is how biotechnology is defined, or technological inventions are defined in the Biological Diversity, the UN Convention on Biological Diversity, Article 2. So, what you have to know is basically everything is centered upon DNA. DNA is made up of a base containing sugar, phosphate, and one nitrogen base. So, in a preliminary science classes, we would have learned that there are four nitrogen bases: adenine, thymine, guanine, and cytosine. A, T, G, G, and C. So, these nitrogen bases are found in pairs with A and T and G and C together. So, A and T is a pair and G and C are paired together. So, how is technology transgressing into this natural structure? The thing is that the sequence of the nitrogen bases can be arranged in many infinite ways, and their structure is known as double helix. Or in common parlance, you can see that DNA editing, DNA edits. It may be noted that the four nitrogen bases are the same for all organisms. It is just that the arrangement is different in all different organisms. So, discovery of recombinant DNA technology changed everything. That is, rDNA involves taking one strand of the DNA and combining it with different strands of DNA to effectuate a desired trait. So this is called DNA editing, and it has endless possibilities. There are endless permutations and combinations available, and that is why it is a proliferating technological discipline in the modern world. So, what all can be patented, or what all inventions are possible through this discipline? So, there are polynucleotides or gene sequences, polypeptides or protein sequences, vectors, gene constructs or cassettes, gene libraries, host cells, microorganisms, stem cells, transgenic cells, plants and animals tissue culture, pharmaceutical vaccine compositions comprising of microorganisms, proteins, polynucleotides, antibodies or antigen binding fragments. It can be monoclonal or polyclonal. All these are very sophisticated scientific terms. And the diagnostic kits and tests, basically the DNA test, etc. Test for the detection of mutation gene protein which might be associated with a particular condition such as protein expression or a disease. So these are the scope of biotechnological inventions, and modern biotechnology has applications in several areas including medicines, agriculture, industrial purposes. Now we are in need of a vaccine, the vaccines, genetically modified organisms. Then there are a lot of medicines which we can develop through biotechnological processes. So that is why this IPO guidelines on biotechnology subject matter is issued as to in which all areas inventions can be uh, collected. Now, at the same time, there are a lot of challenges posed to the patent system. Challenges, if you uh, in a very brief manner, we can say that there are administrative challenges because there are a lot of patent backlogs, overly broad patent claims, excessive litigation. Then there are legal challenges, that is, patentability of modified gene sequences and the conflicts with the Patent Act, the provisions of the Patent Act, international protection of IP rights. Like in different countries, some countries are totally underdeveloped, or some countries are overly developed. That the protection that they extend to biotechnological inventions are different from country to country. So there is no international consensus in this regard. So that is also becoming an issue in this regard. Next one is innovation challenges, that is striking a balance between promotion of IP and promotion of freedom, collaboration, etc. Next one is basically we have the ethical challenges. Ethical challenges in the sense that we are going and editing the DNAs. We are picking out one strand from one DNA and then merging with something else, and it is totally something artificial yet so natural. So there is alteration of genetic code. There are unforeseen consequences arising from alteration of DNA, especially balancing the public interest, uh, that is protecting personal genomic information from manipulation or misuse. Your DNA, when it is available, when you are allowing yourself, your DNA to be altered or genetically modified, you are actually like your data and information, something akin to your privacy rights, like similar it is, that is protecting your personal genomic information from any kind of abuse. So all these things are there. A lot of like how sophisticated the technology is, like in the same ratio or in the same proportion, there are so many ethical concerns regarding biotechnology patents. Now we move on to the different layers in the biotechnological patenting or inventions. So first one is patenting of genetically modified organisms. Now there are some case laws in this regard. One of the earliest case laws is Fung Brothers Seed Company versus Callow Inoculum Company. This is a US case where the Supreme Court decided that uh, a trivial implementation of a natural principle or phenomenon of nature is not eligible for patent. So we have already discussed in while deliberating about what cannot be invented or what cannot be patented. Inventions that cannot be patented. We said that any natural principle or phenomenon occurring in nature cannot be patented. So here the question was, the patentee discovered uh, that there are strains of each species of root nodule bacteria which do not exert a mutually inhibitive effect on each other, and was able to provide a mixed culture of rhizobia capable of inoculating plants belonging to several groups. We know that in the root nodules there should be certain bacteria, rhizobium bacteria. They are very helpful in uh, they are very helpful in taking the nitrogen elements in the soil and then converting it for the growth purposes. So he found out a variant of this bacteria and said that these qualities is something which is not known to the public, that he has expended his skill in unearthing this particular talent or this particular skill of their particular rhizobium. And he also discovered certain strains of each species of root nodule bacteria. And he actually found that this has a special use or special ability which nobody else knows. So, but in this case, the court held that the properties of inhibition or non-inhibition in the bacteria were the work of nature and therefore not subject to being patented. Patents cannot issue for the discovery of the phenomenon of nature. This is an early case, and it is being followed throughout. So that is patenting of genetically modified organisms. So he actually expended his skill in genetically modifying the particular bacterium, but then it was held that it is a work of nature and he cannot be rewarded for anything of that sort. Next one is Nyman versus Chakrabarti, which is another important U.S. case where Mr. Ananda Chakrabarti, he found out he genetically modified a particular microorganism which would devour the oil, which would devour crude oil. So it is basically beneficial for cleaning up the oceans after an oil spillage in the ocean or in the waters. So that is in order to curb such a menace. He actually propounded or he actually invented such a microorganism. So the patent office did not provide him any kind of patent rights or monopoly over the microorganism, saying that it is a natural product and he cannot be given any sort of protection. But then US Supreme Court reversed the particular decision and said that he has expended the skill in making a genetically modified organism which is having a particular usage which nobody else knows, so he should be given patent protection in that regard. So from then on, microorganisms, especially genetically modified microorganisms and even microorganisms per se, are subject matter of patent protection in US, irrespective of its artificiality and naturality. But in India, soon after the 2002 amendments, even genetically modified microorganisms are patentable. That is, the decision of this case had various repercussions in different other parts of the world also. And next one is patenting of plants and animals. Patenting of plants and animals, very important cases are with regard of Harvard Oncomouse, which is also very familiar. Harvard Oncomouse are certain variety of mouses that were injected or that were genetically modified to have malignant tumor cells, malignant cancer cells, to see the growth of cancer cells, etc. So this particular mouses were created so as for medicinal purpose for checking the propagation of tumor cells, and this was sought patent. But this was rejected on the ground of moral policy on the effect that this is, even though it is beneficial, if this mouse is out in the public or this mouse has a lot of potential to cause such kind of trauma in the public, that is it is carrying tumor cells. So because of the public policy and public morality issue, this was not granted patent. Next one is regarding Oxitec mosquitoes. Oxitec mosquitoes are certain, they are also genetically modified mosquitoes. These are non-biting mosquitoes. Non-biting mosquitoes, they were also invented or they were also genetically modified so as to cause, to reduce the diseases caused by mosquitoes. There are so many communicable diseases spread by the mosquitoes. So to reduce this effect, Oxitec mosquitoes were invented, but there also patent was not given. Patent was rejected on the ground that genetically modified plants and animals shall not, that is cloning, genetic modification, all these things cannot be granted any sort of protection. Next one is transgenic plants. Transgenic plants is also something like hybrid variety, but this is not, this you will do after genetic mutilations, after conducting genetic mutilations and genetic modifications. You are taking one gene of one plant with the gene of another plant and merging it together to bring about a new plant. So these are called the transgenic plants. But this was also not granted any sort of patent protection, because patenting, it should be totally new. That is, especially based on public interest in moral policies, it was not granted any sort of patent protection. Next one is essentially biological processes. Now, essentially biological processes, we have a case, Howard Florey Institute or relaxant case. In the relaxant case, the invention related to claims concerning DNA sequences of a naturally occurring substance that relaxes uterus during childbirth, which was obtained from the human ovary. So, from the human ovary, you are taking a strand, you are taking a DNA sequence. It is a naturally occurring substance that relaxes uterus during childbirth. But in this case, the EPO had granted a patent which claimed one read as follows: a DNA fragment encoding human H2 pre-prolaxin said H2 pre-prolaxin having the amino acid sequence set out. So the opposition was that the invention and the discovery, that is, a substance relaxant has not been previously recognized, although occurring in nature, that a process has been developed to obtain relaxing and the DNA which encoded it, that the product were characterized by the chemical structure and the product has a use. So the invention was upheld. Here the patent was given not for the relaxant, not for the substance relaxant. Relaxant is found naturally in the ovary. It is not for that the patent was given. The patent was given for the process, for the essentially biological process that developed or that obtained relaxin and the DNA sequence and the encoding of it from the uterus. So for that particular process, the patent protection was given, but not for the product relaxin. Next one is gene patents. Gene patents also, it is a very sophisticated yet innovative area which has a lot of litigations behind it, and it has a lot of ethical concerns. More than litigation, even the litigation talks about the ethical concerns behind it. So first one is especially it concentrates on human genes, questions involving human genes, the cloning, the human DNA information, the storage of human DNA information, its modifications, etc. So it is important to know that what is not implicated by the decision. The most important one is molecular pathology versus Myriad Genetics, which is also again a US case. That is, there are no method claims before the court. Had Myriad created an innovative method of manipulating genes while searching for the BRCA1 and BRCA2 genes, it could possibly have sought a method patent. But the processes used by Myriad to isolate DNA at the time of its patents were well understood, widely used, and fairly uniform insofar as any scientist engaged in the search for a DNA would likely have utilized a similar approach. So, similarly, this case does not involve patents on new applications of knowledge. And in this opinion, which refers to the scientific details in the majority opinion, the judge wrote that all of the opinion except part 1, some portions of the rest of the details in molecular biology, he is unable to affirm those details of the knowledge or even belief. It suffices to him that, having studied the opinions below and the expert beliefs presented, the portion of DNA isolated from its natural state sought to be patented is identical to the portion of the DNA in natural state, and that complementary cDNA synthetic creation not normally present in nature. So here, if you're taking off a strand from a naturally occurring DNA, that was not given any sort of patent protection because of these reasons, that is, it is naturally occurring, and this maybe the synthetic process of the essentially biological process may be patented, but not the product as such. Next one is Mayo versus Prometheus, again a US Supreme Court 2012 decision. Here also the Supreme Court invalidated the plaintiff Prometheus methods patent for tests assessing the correct dosages of certain Crohn's disease medications and lay down the two-part test for determining patent eligibility. So first one is there are 3 categories of unstated exceptions. One is laws of nature, natural phenomena, and abstract ideas. These exceptions are not patentable because they belong to everyone. The court noted by way of example that this means Einstein could not have patented relativity nor Newton or any of his laws. Second point is, if any invention is based on an exception, it still might be patentable as long as it doesn't restrict other use of that exception. The court warned that judges should carefully examine such claims to avoid interpreting patent statutes in ways that make patent eligibility depend simply on the draftsman's art. So here also, because of the same reason, that is, it is occurring in nature. Even though it is acknowledged and accepted that the scientists or the people, the technicians have expended a lot of skill in finding out the specific GNA strands or the specific modified DNAs. But even then, since it is already occurring in nature and they are just causing some sort of modifications here and there, the patent was not given. Now, if you come to the Indian scenario, there is a case, Monsanto case, that is, it's an agri-biotic invention. This is a judgment by Delhi's High Court, and here what was sought to be patented was Monsanto's BT patent, that is Bacillus thuringiensis or BT bacteria toxic to bollworm pest that attacks cotton plants. So it simply means that the cotton there is some sort of a pesticide for repelling the pest. We use pesticides, but here he is actually using a genetically modified bacterium, genetically modified microorganism to repel off these pesticides. And one of the major advantages of this pesticide was that around 50 seed companies in India have benefited from Monsanto's high-tech Bollgard pesticide, and even it has led to a historic cotton revolution in India, and this has made India the largest cotton producer and second largest exporter in the world. So if you look at the economic and the developmental terms, this invention was very, very significant in the history of India's cotton production. But what happened was, what Monsanto did was, Monsanto actually claimed a process patent. It claimed a method patent to infuse a BT gene into the cotton plant genome, which thereby produces insecticidal protein fusion that prevents bollworm attacks. So to the cotton plant, you are injecting another BT gene, and this will inherently equip the cotton plant to repel off the bollworm attacks, because it will create some sort of protein fusion within the plant itself. So any cotton plant variety, when back-crossed with Monsanto's donor seed variety, hybridizes into a variety containing the BT technology, which prevents it from bollworm attack under certain field conditions. But the court invalidated the patent by construing Monsanto's narrow patent claims falling within the broad biotechnological subject matter exclusion. We'll come to the subject matter exclusion later on. Because BT trade by itself has no intrinsic worth, since its function was to be a part of the seed and later hybridizes into a variety of plant, both of which are specifically excluded by India's patent law. Because and also said that the invention was not within the exclusion of essentially biological processes, and the human intervention was required at the early stages of plant life and not to the end of the plant life. And there are so many arguments against Monsanto's claims, and because of all these reasons, it was totally not given any kind of patent protection. So this is a widely criticized judgment, and this requires more thinking and deliberation as to whether the judgment of Delhi High Court regarding Monsanto's case is right or wrong. Many authorities say that it could be wrong, or the court has reached an erroneous judgment. It is up to the people who learn patent law. It is up to them to decide which it is. And it has not yet reached the Supreme Court. Let's hope it reaches the Supreme Court and Supreme Court gives an idea about that. This is quite a controversial case. So this is left to the readers or the listeners as to check whether the judgment is right or wrong. Now, these are particular subject matter exclusions, especially in the area of biotechnology patents in India. Now let's see. Almost among the 15, almost 7 of them are there, because there are exclusions read along with section 3. Along with that, there are certain international exclusions as well. Now, section 3b, inventions contrary to morality, which cause serious prejudice to human, animal, or plant life, health of environment, etc. For example, process of cloning, process of modifying the germline of human beings, process of modifying the genetic identity of animals, which are likely to cause them suffering, a process of preparing seeds or other genetic material comprising elements which can cause adverse environmental impact, or uses of human embryos for commercial exploitation. So all these will come under section 3b, and any sort of invention in this regard is totally illegal and invalid. Let alone patent protection will not be given, let alone that the thought or the invention itself is illegal, that it might end up with any kind of criminal prosecution itself. Section 3c is scientific principles, abstract theory, discovery of living or non-living things, and we have discussed a lot of cases where the court said that it is naturally occurring in nature and the particular patentee has not done anything bringing in such novelty into the invention. That is, products such as microorganisms, nucleic acid sequences, proteins, enzymes, compounds, etc., which are directly isolate. What they do is they isolate it from the nature. In nature, it could be found in combinations. From the combination, you are isolating one particular item so as to be used in something else. So that particular process are not patentable subject matter. But the processes may be patented. Next one is 3D, discovery of new form of non-substance which does not result in enhancement of efficacy. Here also the inventions relating to three-dimensional or crystal structure of a polypeptide attracts the provisions of section 3D, the Novartis case, unless it is provided that such polypeptide differs significantly in the properties with regard to therapeutic efficacy, which comes under the area of pharmaceutical patents. Next one is method of agriculture and horticulture. The conventional methods performed in actual open field should be construed as a method of agriculture or horticulture, or the new, very sophisticated methods of cloning or genetically modified organisms growth. All these things also cannot be patented because they'll come under this wide head. Next one is method of treatment. Now, this method of treatment is quite large. There are a lot of exclusions in this regard. The surgical methods, curative methods, therapeutic methods. For example, a method of treating sheep for increasing wool yield, or a method of artificially inducing the body mass of poultry, then termination of pregnancy, castration, sterilization, artificial insemination, embryo transplants, treatments for experimental and research purposes, removal of organs from the living donor, methods of abortion, induction of labor, control of uterus, menstrual regulation. All these things, there are a lot of areas in this particular regard also. All these things also cannot be patented, no matter how inventive or how innovative the particular invention is. Next one is 3G, plants, 3J, plants and animals in whole, the microorganisms and essentially biological processes. So here also the claims regarding growing plants, germination of seeds, developmental stage of plants and animals, all these cannot be patented under this particular section. Next one is 3K. 3K actually deals with mathematical or business method or a computer program per se algorithms. So anything, any presentation of information, they are not patentable information. When coming to biotechnology, we have a particular new area called the bioinformatics, which is a relatively young science and has emerged from the combination of information technology and biotechnology. It is a clubbing of information technology with biotechnology. So this is so any kind of determination or any kind of invention with regard to bioinformatics will also be excluded under section 3K. So in short, in a nutshell, we can say that even though how progressive this field is, The patent protection awarded in this regard is very few, and still there are a lot of litigations going on. There are a lot of exclusions. If you look at the Venn diagram, the exclusions are more, and the things that can be accepted as inventions or things that will be granted any sort of patent protection is very less. And any patentee who requires any patent protection has to ensure that their inventions do not fall under any of these exclusions as well. But in the future, we could think of something very progressive in this regard, because it is even growing out to be a sui generis IP itself, intellectual property itself. So maybe there could be some kind of this particular piece of legislation to deal with biotechnology patents as well, because it has a lot of reception in the public, or even for the benefit of the whole world itself. But at the same time, there are a lot of ethical and legal issues as well. So we hope some kind of legal scenario will come into place so as to bring about a balance between these two issues and also the needs of the public as well. So this is regarding the biotechnology patents, which is it is quite a big topic. This is just a bird's eye view that I've given. So thank you all. That's all regarding this topic.